Hi, welcome to Freedom Rocks. Last time Chris joined us on the phone. This time he managed to take a break from his touring of the state to appear in studio. As we mentioned last episode, he is the next junior senator from New York. What would you like to start with?
Well, I don't know. I have here some the HR 822 and HR 2900 concealed carry reciprocity bills. I mean,
just for some background, Article 4, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution requires every state to give full faith and credit to public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. Unfortunately, New York, along with a couple other states like New Jersey and California, refused to recognize any other state's pistol licenses. Now, they recognize driver's licenses, so you take your written test and road test in New York, you get a driver's license, you can drive in every other state. You get a pistol license, states don't have to honor that. Other states don't have to honor that. These two bills are bills that would basically enforce the full faith and credit clause.
Yes, as we should. Let's see here. HR 822 is the, and pardon me if I have these mixed up, that's the NRA-supported bill.
Yes.
Correct, yes. It's a longer bill.
And of course, once you're elected, the next term, those bills will expire unless they pass.
Right, which unfortunately is probably not going to happen in the Senate, which is why we need to elect more libertarians to the United States Senate.
Or at least any libertarians.
Yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, I mean, it should be straightforward. As you mentioned, you know, the U.S. Constitution requires full faith and credit. I mean, we do it with marriages, we do it with driver's licenses, you know, we do it with pretty much everything except pistol licenses. And there's no good reason for it, except that there's an irrational prejudice against guns. And I was thinking about this because here in Monroe County, you know, there's been some talk about, you know, repealing the ban on carrying concealed in county parks. And, you know, people say things like, oh, well, I would feel less safe, you know, but the people with concealed carry permits walk around, you know, all the time. They walk down the street. They walk in front of
you never hear about the guy walking into a convenience store with a gun, buying a newspaper, a cup of coffee, and leaving.
Right, but it happens
because it's not newsworthy. It happens all the time.
Yeah. And there's no reason it's just an emotional reaction. It's like the National Safety Council in 2004 did a study on how likely you are to die in a terrorist attack. And you're actually 8 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than a terrorist. And that's not to say police are bad.
I guess we'd better, I guess that means it's better to take your chances with terrorists than with the TSA?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, the thing that the study underlines is, I mean, people are all paranoid about terrorists, but police make them feel safer, but you're actually more likely to die, you know, at the hands of a police officer, not because police officers are evil criminals. And
that figure includes the 3,000 people from 9/11?
Yeah. I mean,
that's probably why it's only 8 times more likely to be killed by a cop.
Right. Well, the point is, it's all an emotional reaction. I mean, there's certainly no reason to go eviscerating the Constitution because you're afraid of terrorism. You know, your lifespan is a lot more likely to get shortened by stress and worry about terrorism than actually meeting a terrorist, which is, you know, incredibly unlikely. You know, but nonetheless, people are all paranoid, and we've got to pass these laws that fight the war on terror and take away your rights and let the army come into your house and put you in indefinite detention.
Okay, now.
Same with concealed carry.
Now,
it's a
now
baseless
it's my
word.
understanding that any progress towards repealing the ban on carrying in parks is being held up by Republicans concerned about Maggie Brooks having to actually take a stand on something before running against Slaughter?
I'm not sure that's how they would phrase the issue. But
well, that may not be how they would phrase it, but I was there when you spoke, when you had that conversation with that one Republican legislator. Yeah.
That's really disappointing. I mean, it's just very, very strange. It's like, it's the thing that's weird about this is that they didn't have to do it that way, right? They didn't have to say, we're going to do this, and then not do it. You know, they could have just said, we're not going to do this. And there'd be disappointment, but not outrage.
Well, they have to keep saying they're going to do it so that pro-gun voters will keep re-electing them over and over and over again, so they can turn around and continue to mistreat us.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, it's when you lie to people and get them enraged, like, they will be less likely to vote for you than if they're merely disappointed. Like, that's the thing I don't understand. Like,
And yet, pro-gun voters keep re-electing Republican politicians. But anyway, you want to get into the difference between those two interstate reciprocity bills?
Well, the biggest thing that hit me right away is H.R. 2900 doesn't really require you to have a license. So states that don't issue licenses,
Vermont and I forget if Arizona issues them for reciprocity purposes or not.
I'm not sure. I think Alaska issues them for reciprocity.
Yeah, Alaska
purposes.
doesn't. Let's see, Vermont, Arizona, and Alaska do not require people to have a license to carry pistols, but at least Alaska issues pistol licenses for reciprocity purposes.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I mean, that's one potential problem is that, your state would have to start issuing those, and what if it doesn't want to? What if it's, it costs money?
So basically, folks from Vermont wouldn't be allowed to, under H.R. 822, folks from Vermont would not be allowed reciprocity. They would not be allowed to carry in another state unless, of course, they got an out-of-state license. H.R. 2900, which is supported by Gun Owners of America, that one, if your home state doesn't issue pistol licenses, then you wouldn't need a license for reciprocity purposes. We're just about out of time for this segment. Just want to remind you you're watching Freedom Rocks. We'll be right back.
Did you know high-quality versions of all episodes of Freedom Rocks are available on DVD? Each DVD contains 3 episodes for just $15. We also have specials that aren't on our CTV or YouTube. You can find links to all of our DVDs on the Freedom Rocks website, freedomrocks.cybermansoftware.com.
Hi, welcome back to Freedom Rocks. As always, we'd like to remind you that this is a cable access program. That means we don't get Nielsen ratings. So we don't know you're watching unless you tell us you're watching, which you can do right here at this website at the bottom of your screen. Freedom Rocks, that's freedomrocks.cybermansoftware.com. You were about to say?
I was about to say that H.R. 2900 is a better bill, but both of them would certainly be in a step in the right direction. Of course, as the senator from New York, I'd like to see New York City actually comply with federal law. For instance, I don't know if people are aware that, basically Mayor Bloomberg has this extortion scheme going in New York City where, if you're just flying through New York City, not even leaving the airport, just making a connecting flight, and you have...
Not even leaving the airport or not even leaving the airplane?
I think you're probably safe as long as you stay on the airplane. I haven't heard of that. I've heard of people that, you don't have to actually get out of the airport. But I've definitely heard of people who talk to the TSA agents or the people behind the counter, at the airline desk, and they say, I have just checked, You know, I'm following the federal rules. I have, you know, locked in my baggage this firearm, and
Well,
you know,
the baggage shouldn't be in your possession in New York State if you're not a New York State resident. If you have a pistol in your baggage, it's already a felony under New York State law to possess that pistol.
right
Now, if you've got a stopover and the luggage is going to be out of your possession, say the airlines are transferring it from one plane to another, you should be safe, one would think.
You should be, right. That's what I'm talking about. But unfortunately, in New York City, they just arrest you anyway. They arrest you anyway, and they charge you with crimes, and they make you plead to some lower offense where you pay like $3,000, $4,000 or something like that. And you don't go to jail. But, you know, federal law says that you should not be arrested. You know, if you're following the regulations and, you know, you have your checked baggage and it's secured, then you have the right to transport your firearms on an airplane. But basically everywhere except New York City. So
Yeah.
certainly as a United States Senator, I would encourage the federal agencies to intervene in that case, because, you know, what we have is the New York Police Department breaking the law. And that's a problem.
But it's a gray area in terms of whether you say that someone walks up to the ticket counter.
Well, no, not with their weapon.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they've I guess this was a Tea Party guy from another state was making a connecting flight in New York City, and I forget he talked to somebody from the airline for whatever reason. And happened to mention this, and they picked up the phone and they called, I don't know if they call it NYPD. I think it's like Port Authority or something like that. Port Authority.
Port Authority of New York.
Yeah,
they run the airport and the ports and all that stuff.
Yeah, so they called them up, and they come and like they arrest this guy, you know, in the airport for violating New York City's firearms laws, even though he was not planning.
New York State firearm law.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the point being that the federal law trumps this under the Supremacy Clause, and New York City just doesn't care, right?
Right.
And you go to any other city in the United States, and it's not like this. So that's definitely something that needs to stop.
So the bill that's HR 2800 or
2900, yeah.
822 and 2900 in this term, you would support reintroducing them next term?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I personally would like stronger language in here. You know, I would say that. I mean, it doesn't say if you have a driver's license and you're from Pennsylvania, you know, New York State doesn't say, okay, you can't drive on these roads. You know, a driver's license is a driver's license is a driver's license. And each state has its own tests for, you know, giving you a driver's license.
I forget what state it was. When I took driver's ed, the instructor said that there was one state where the road test consists of starting a car, driving a straight line for a mile, turning around and driving a straight line back.
Right.
No parallel park, no three-point turn, no intersections, nothing.
Right.
And yet New York State would recognize that state's driver's license.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's clearly if New York State was really concerned about safety and not just having an irrational prejudice against guns, they would do the same thing with the pistol licenses, but they don't. So you know, it's. You know, there's a danger to establishing a national standard because then it might become too strict. But on the other hand, I mean, there has to be something. You know, there has to be some kind of enforcement of the Second Amendment. You know, in a place like New York City where they just don't let you have guns. You know, unless you're wealthy or politically connected.
Well, again, it's actually state law that prohibits possession in New York City.
Right, right. I mean, in New York State, they have these laws.
I mean, we don't even have reciprocity among cities. My Monroe County issued pistol license isn't valid in New York City, even though it's the same state.
Yeah, well, that's because they all those laws they passed applying to a city of 1 million or more residents, meaning New York City. You know,
or another one I like, within any county wholly embraced within a city. In the entire state, there's 5 such counties.
Right, all of them in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I would support as a United States senator. You know, it's like that's the whole 51st state thing, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
just cut off the tumor.
Right. Yeah, or give New York City to New Jersey. I mean, it's not. You know, I don't want to give the wrong impression that I won't represent New York City.
Right.
You're certainly, you know.
Unless and until we split the state, you will represent the entire state.
Correct. Yes. But I have to say that, you know, if you have a situation whereby the state legislature is passing 2 separate sets of laws, you know, one for one part of the state and one for the other part of the state, you know, there should be 2 different states. But
yeah, I think that's due largely to the fact that most of the state's population lives in and around New York City. So more than half of the state's population, therefore more than half of the state's representation in the legislature. But we're coming up on another break. Once again, you're watching Freedom Rocks. Stay tuned.
Did you know Freedom Rocks has swag? You can help stimulate the economy and show how much you like Freedom Rocks at the same time. We've got t-shirts for men and women. We've got coffee mugs and beer steins. We've got food and beverage thermoses. You can get your own Freedom Rocks swag with the show logo, as seen in the opening title of the show, right here at our Cafe Press shop. That's cafepress.com/freedomrocks.
Have you ever played WTF Sudoku?
You mean WTF as in what the f***?
Yes.
What the f*** is so all fired? What the f*** about Sudoku?
Regular Sudoku is played on a 9x9 grid with exactly 1 of every digit 1 through 9 in every row, column, and 3x3 grid.
So what?
WTF Sudoku is played on a 25x25 grid with exactly 1 of every letter A through Y in every row, column, and 5x5 group.
WTF. How can I play WTF Sudoku?
You can play it online at www.cybermansoftware.com/games. You can also buy a book of puzzles on Amazon.com. Just search for WTF Sudoku.
Book? You mean on paper?
Yes, that's correct.
So that's www.cybermansoftware.com/games or by searching for WTF Sudoku on Amazon.com?
Yes.
Welcome back to Freedom Rocks. As always, we're underwritten by Hex Sudoku and WTF Sudoku, my books, which are both available on a website I can't mention or name any rivers in South America. Once again, we're speaking with the next junior senator from New York, Chris Eads. And now I'd like to get into some potential constitutional amendments. And these are not actual proposals. These are just a few things I wrote up for discussion purposes. How about this? Section 1. The 27th Article of Amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. Section 2, no law increasing the compensation for the services of senators or representatives shall apply to any individual serving as a senator or representative at the time such law is passed.
So Congress can't vote itself a raise.
Correct.
Yeah, well, I mean, that should be a no-brainer. I mean,
Well, now, to be fair, they would still be able to vote for congressional raises, but they would be voting to give their successors raises, not themselves.
Right. I mean, actually, what I think we should do is require a referendum. I mean, right? If I can't just give myself a raise, I have to ask my boss. Well, who is the boss of your congressman? You are, the people. So should they not have to ask their boss, the people, for a raise if they want a raise? You know, that's what I think should be done. Is just.
Well, I think that was the intent of the 27th Amendment, which, little-known history fact, was actually submitted for ratification along with the Bill of Rights. It was submitted in 1789, but it was just finally ratified in 1992.
Yeah.
So the intent of that, the intent of the 27th Amendment was for the next intervening congressional election to serve as a referendum on any pay raises they had voted themselves during the previous term. But we can see that hasn't worked out too well.
Yeah, no. It's you know, it's the average congressman, no matter how rich they are when they get into office, always seems to have their net worth go through the roof within a very short period of time.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't think it's the actual compensation package, though. I think it's the fact that they have access to inside information and they trade. They're able to trade. Did the Stock Act pass?
It did. Wait. It passed like both houses, and it went into some kind of conference committee, or it was going to go into some kind of conference committee, but
where it slowly died, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure. Like I haven't
okay, because that was a sham. It was a bill that would have prohibited senators and representatives from trading stock based on inside information they have through their congressional hearings and whatnot. The problem is there's so many loopholes in it. For example, it doesn't prohibit their spouses from trading on the information. So without the stock, so even under the Stock Act, if Chris gets elected to the Senate, he could get hitched and find out all kinds of inside information about what stocks are likely to skyrocket and what stocks are likely to tumble, and he could get his wife to execute the trades. It would be perfectly legal. Also, it doesn't apply to where they get most of their money, and that is real estate. Let's say he gets elected, and I'm not saying you would do this, you wouldn't, right?
I don't know what you're saying yet.
Basically, they find out that either the government itself or a government contractor is interested in a certain piece of land, so they go out and offer the owner of the land a lowball figure for it. They buy it, then turn around and flip it, sell it to the government for a much higher price.
No, don't worry. I wouldn't engage in that kind of obvious corruption. I mean, it makes you wonder about the housing bubble, right? You know, I mean, these people like, I mean, you know, that's specifically exempt from the Stock Act. Yeah, yeah, the Stock Act.
And that's where they're getting their millions. They know the government's interested, or a government contractor is interested in a piece of land, so they go out and buy it at a lowball price, turn around and sell it for big bucks to the government.
Yeah, it reminds me of this whole like Keystone Pipeline thing that's going through Pennsylvania. Is somehow or other, this is of dubious constitutionality, but the government of, I believe it was Pennsylvania state government, basically delegated its power of eminent domain to a private corporation. And then, and the thing is, the corporation who's running this pipeline promised that they would only use it as a last resort after negotiating good faith with the landowners. But while they were making these promises, they were preparing thousands of legal documents to commence these eminent domain proceedings. So while they were promising, oh no, we're going to do this as a last resort, you know, they were, with the other hand, preparing to use it en masse, which they did immediately upon receiving the authority from the government. So yeah, collusion with big business, bad.
Yeah. Big business, good. Government collusion with big business, bad. So that would have, it would have only a minor impact on how much money they're able to make, but at least they wouldn't be able to vote themselves pay raises. Another proposal I have, Section 1, no power of Congress enumerated within the Constitution of the United States may be delegated to any other person or office. Section 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Yeah, well, that's another thing we need to deal with. I mean, when the Supremacy Clause was written, our founders had no idea that there was going to be this vast, sprawling bureaucracy. And, you know, what we essentially have now is Congress delegates these powers to the executive branch to make regulations. Then this power...
Not only that, but to go to war.
Well, yeah,
we haven't been in a constitutionally authorized war since World War II. Korea, Vietnam, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the previous war in Iraq, they were all done by legislation ostensibly authorizing the president to declare war. But we're just about out of time for this episode. We'll see you next time. Check out our website.